Ladies and gentlemen, Rule Third's co-founder and CEO, Max Mariner.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's great to be here in the Internet Opera House for this presentation. I'm pleased to announce that Rule Thirds will be getting a new upgrade. Introducing Rule Thirds OS 0. That's right, an operating system that does not exist. For example, if I go to the Rule Thirds podcast and I say the phrase, "My name is Max," it will immediately say,
it's buggy software. Jump the gun a bit.
I gave you 3 weeks to work on this. I gave you 3 weeks.
And my name is Larry.
My name is Sean.
There we go. I'm sorry, the Rule Thirds team is they're not doing too well this week.
And my name is Sorry, glitches.
Oh, it's glitching now. Great.
Wait,
great.
my name is
I've embarrassed
Max?
myself in front of the...
My name is Sean?
Who am I?
I'm so confused.
What did this become?
So welcome to the Rule Thirds podcast. It's good to be here. It's good to be reviewing a movie again. Isn't that a thing that you guys have done, but I have not in a while?
Yeah. So I wasn't seeing a movie.
It was good. There was seats, and there was darkness, and then there was a screen.
There were projected images with synchronous audio?
I believe so, yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, that's the dream. That's the
It was
dream.
pretty cool, yeah.
It
was good times.
Max,
So,
Max,
what-
what,
Yeah.
Max,
Anyways,
what was the
how are
last...
you guys doing today?
Wait, Max, what was the last film you've seen, like in theaters, like new?
Yeah,
like,
what
new
was
film?
that?
Oh, before Steve Jobs, I saw The Walk, which we were
okay.
going to talk about, and then
Yeah.
things happened.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were going. Actually, you know what? I think that one's on Larry.
Yeah, that one's
we
on
shouldn't
me.
give. We shouldn't give Max a hard time for that.
Yeah,
But for
sorry.
the record, so everyone knows, I've seen every movie we've intended to review. Just so everyone is aware of that.
Oh,
Don't
great.
put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I haven't even seen that
Oh.
movie, but I'm referencing
Oh,
it. So
why did you
no one can
reference
stop me.
that movie?
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah. So,
Anyway, things are going well. Thank you for asking,
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah,
what about you, Larry? How's college life treating you?
it's good. Just got back from a study session, and
Yeah,
I'm
you're at
feeling
midterms,
good.
right?
Yes. Well, actually, okay, no. Midterms.
What are these midterms of which you speak?
Yeah,
midterms.
I didn't have any this semester.
Me neither.
Awesome.
Well, midterms have sort of passed, essentially. It's now, I mean, my class, I'm taking a general psychology course, and it doesn't really have a midterm. It just has, like, exams. Like, 3
And how does
exams.
that make you feel?
Good one, Sean. You think you're really
I'm
clever,
so
huh?
original. I'm so
Really?
original,
Yeah,
you guys.
super
Like,
creative.
comment, subscribe.
Oh my God. Yeah, so things are going well. So far, at least.
Well, I think, Max, you would approve of this, and Larry as well, because you guys are music people. I went to the Helena Symphony, which is where I grew up, Helena, and I went back to town this weekend because the Helena Symphony was putting on a Star Wars concert.
Nice.
Nice.
It was very good. So that was what I did this weekend. That was fun. I
From
also
all
saw
the movies, or
What? Yeah, from all of them. And I
Nice.
also
did
saw.
you include the love theme from episode 2?
Yes, they did. Across the Stars, which was very good.
Sweet. Nice.
Awesome.
Underrated, very underrated, and they had
Oh
a full
my God,
choir.
extremely.
They had a full choir for Duel of the Fates. It was awesome.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's amazing. Is there any video of this? I'd love to watch this. Or
No,
see some
sorry.
snippets. All right.
I mean, you could fly
Dang
to
it.
Helena, but yeah. I also saw
Oh.
Crimson Peak. Wanted to give a shout out to that.
Ah.
It was quite good. It wasn't great, but it
Really?
was very good. I enjoyed it a lot. It was beautiful, good atmosphere. The ghost designs were very unique. I would say go see it, especially since it's not doing great at box office. So please go see Crimson Peak if you're interested. I would give it a thumbs up for sure.
Oh, hey, and if we're talking about movies that we've seen in between, I saw The Intern
how was
with
that?
Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. It was cute. You know, it's a nice light comedy. I think it definitely stumbles in a couple of areas. But I definitely will say that Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway have surprisingly great chemistry, which helps quite a bit. So go
Well,
see it if you're in for like a lighter sort of comedy, like family comedy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Max, have you seen anything?
Yeah, I watched Back to the Future Part 2 on October 21st, 2015.
Well,
When's
I
day
mean,
after
I
21st,
also did
2015?
technically.
Well,
Did
I
everybody do
didn't.
that? Did we all do that?
I
No.
did.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Sean, come on. Wait, have you even
Sorry.
seen Part 2?
No, I just saw part 1 like 6 months ago.
That would
Cut
have
me some
literally been
slack.
like the best time to watch it for the
Oh,
first
I
time.
know. I know.
Yeah,
I'm
honestly,
sorry about that.
come
I
on,
didn't.
Sean.
It
Come
just-
on.
And and if I may, the 30th anniversary Blu-ray has a ton of really cool stuff. It was really good seeing the movie again, and it's still a great movie. Back to the Future Part 2 is pretty much what you want out of a sequel.
I'd say that.
Hopefully you enjoyed Back to the Future Day, which hopefully was not too overshadowed by the Star Wars Day that happened 2 days before and the Halloween that happened 10 days later. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Halloween's very close.
Yeah, Halloween is this Saturday. It's so weird.
I am ready.
Yeah, I am also ready.
I'm dressing up as indifferent.
I actually have a costume. I actually have a costume.
What is it?
It's a Captain America from the Winter Soldier variant.
Nice.
Oh, okay, cool. That is the best outfit he's had. You know, we've been talking a while. Maybe we should get to...
Yeah, we have, because it's been a while since we've been able to talk like as a group on stuff, so I let it go a little bit longer this time. But today we're here reviewing, if you couldn't tell already, we're here to review a specific movie that I've been excited for ever since it was announced. And I heard
then lost
first
its distributor and its main star, but then got right back on track.
Yeah,
so
it's been a long road for this movie, but I'm glad it's out, even though it's not doing well at the box office at all at the moment.
Before you get too much into that, I should probably remind you of the community segment.
Oh yeah, community segment.
I'm
glad that should be a running gag. We just always forget about the community segment.
It's kind of unintentionally become a running gag, you guys. I've had to step in for our poor listeners, our neglected listeners.
Somebody tell us, what did the community have to say, Sean?
Well, I have to go back actually to the Martian review because I was so excited for the Star Wars trailer on our last episode. I just skipped it and wanted to talk about the Star Wars trailer. And I have no regrets of that. It was awesome to talk about. So please check out that episode if you haven't. So Whitley, in response to the Martian review, pretty much echoed a lot of our thoughts about the Martian. A little long, which is what I said, not terribly deep, but optimistic without being obnoxious, humanistic without being overly sentimental. And I think those were two very good ways to put it. And he just says an all-around blast to watch. Science heavy without overbearing, all that. So he pretty much agreed with us, which is cool. Yay. It's his favorite Ridley Scott movie so far, but he hasn't seen Alien. If you've seen Blade Runner, then you're wrong, Whitley. So go see Blade Runner if you haven't. And then Braxton, my dear friend Braxton, says that disco is an inherently happy genre of dance music, and that fits perfectly with the optimism of Matt Damon. I actually agree. That's why I think it was a good soundtrack pick to have some disco playing in the background. So that's it for the Martian comments. Now we can jump to the aforementioned Star Wars official trailer reactions. I don't know why it's called that. I was not on the committee to name the episode official, but
it is the official trailer.
No, I meant it's because the other two were teasers, so it's the Star Wars official trailer.
The official theatrical trailer. Whatever.
If it was Star Wars trailer reactions official or official react, okay, I get what you're doing there.
Yeah, see,
all right.
See?
I take back my snide comment.
Hooray for rescinded snide comments.
Yes, snide rescinded. That's a Harry Potter spell right there. Snide rescinded. I don't know. That was my best Hermione voice, by the way. So, go me. Woodley's left us two comments. They were saying that he says Max is right, that hype did kill Phantom Menace. But honestly, I watched the Phantom Menace trailers, and I think it's really obvious even from them that something's off. All the lines delivered are really wooden.
I love the Phantom Menace trailer.
There's Jar Jar Binks shown 5 times. I mean, come on, guys. The sign should have been there. So I don't think it's like something that I should be worried about. I am looking for things to be worried about.
To be honest, I'm not worried about it.
I think you guys just didn't have a reason to be worried because what was the worst Star Wars movie? Return of the Jedi is still a great film. Oh no! So you guys didn't have anything to be afraid of. We do. We have the
Return of the Jedi is the best Star Wars film. Excuse me.
No, it is not.
Best.
No, it is not.
No. Don't give me that Empire Strikes Back nonsense. No.
I'm giving you original Star Wars truth. Okay, there it is. Rule Third's debate. Wait, okay, Larry, what's the best Star Wars movie? What's the best original trilogy?
Wow, you're putting me on the spot there a little bit.
Yeah, don't care.
Wait, the best one, just the best or my favorite?
Favorite.
Well, my favorite's Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, we're going to do a debate, all three of us.
No, we're not going to do a debate because there's no way I'm going to be able to convince you guys and the rest of nerd culture that Return of the Jedi is the best one.
Well, that just shows some lack of your
own... Wait a minute. Do we all have different opinions on which is the best film?
I think the first one's the best in just how singular and iconic it is and simplicity and beauty.
I think it's the weakest of the original. All right, let's not do this. Let's not do this right now.
Okay, you know what? This is taking a while. And there are a lot of other comments. Whitley, I don't know what biopics comments you're referring to, but I stand by it. Because I think I did take a jab at biopics, and I meant what I said, whatever it was. I think he's referring to a comment I made, but please clarify. And that's it for community segment. So that did take a while, but we can move on now.
Cool. So today we're going to be talking about Steve Jobs, a movie that, as I mentioned before, has not been doing well at the box office at all.
I know.
And
well, nothing
maybe
is this weekend. It's been this weird, everything's bombing weekend.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's my theory on the matter. Star Wars is so big, it is actually absorbing the public's interest from other movies.
Honestly,
this is something I believe.
That idea kind of crossed my mind a bit, where it's like people just like, well, hey, do you want to see this movie? Well, it's not Star Wars, so no. It's hard to get psyched up. Which
is interesting, considering that in 2 weeks we're going to be getting two big movies, Spectre and the Peanuts movie. So how are they going to do against the hype of Star Wars? What?
Maybe I'm worried more about what like Mockingjay might have. Like Mockingjay might be.
Oh yeah, that's still a movie coming out.
It's more the like franchise blockbuster. I mean, James Bond's a franchise, but yeah. But I do get what you're saying. I think Star Wars might legitimately just kind of be overshadowing other releases. They don't feel as important, so people aren't as, I don't know. They don't feel like going, and they might have just spent all their money getting tickets for the showings. I know I did. So
yeah. So, but we're going to review it anyway, because I think this is a movie that is certainly worth a discussion. It's certainly worth talking about. And maybe through this discussion, we'll really find out why people haven't been interested in Steve Jobs, despite its critical acclaim and its subject matter that's, pretty widespread and well-known. Perhaps too well-known? We'll find out. So we're going to start with our theses, as we usually do. And then, because most people haven't seen the movie, I'm going to pose the podcast question to you right as we end it, because pretty sure most of you guys listening to this have not seen Steve Jobs yet, and hopefully this will convince you whether or not you will. So, Sean, let's start with you. Let's start with the Steve Jobs fan. Tell us, what did you think of Steve Jobs?
Well, when I came out of Steve Jobs, I can't say I was overwhelmed, but I can't say I was underwhelmed. I was quite whelmed, and I don't know why. It took me a while to figure out why. And I think part of it is just kind of this, and it kind of clicked just like 10 minutes after. It didn't take me long, but I love Michael Fassbender. Amazing actor. He was at the lead. Kate Winslet's always really good. And Seth Rogen I always like. And you got the director, Danny Boyle. You have Aaron Sorkin writing. This is a team that is not going to do wrong. And even more so, I'd read the entire screenplay before going in. And so when I realized, I was worried that I wasn't overjoyed at the movie I just saw, that was okay. It was an excellent movie. My emotional response was just because I expected excellence. And I think that's what this movie is, undeniably. It's a great character study. It's a brilliant performance from Fassbender, but everyone else turns in great performances as well. I hope that Fassbender doesn't overshadow them, because Winslet, Rogen, Daniels, everyone should get talked about, and we will in this podcast. And it's a very, very risky structure they took, and it could have been so dull and weird and clunky, but it moves so perfectly because you have a very good writer, a very fast writer at the helm. It all just clicked. Interesting character study, fast dialogue. It's exactly what you expect, whether you love that or not. I did, so I'm actually going to be giving Steve Jobs a 9 out of 10.
That's all right. All right, there we go. That's our first rating. Larry, tell us, what did you think of Steve Jobs?
Well, funny story. One morning I opened up the New York Times to see an 8-page spread for Steve Jobs. That's 4 pages double-sided. The poster side, where they show all the character posters, is currently hanging on my dorm wall. I am looking at it right now. I was very excited walking into this film. And I came out respecting it more than I enjoyed it, per se, but I'm not going to fault the film too much for that. I think I will definitely echo Sean's sentiments. I think it's a excellently made film. There's so many great things about it. I just think where it kind of falters for me is that structure, that risky structure they decide to take, and how that's executed on just a couple of different levels. I'm going to get more into that maybe later in the podcast, but I will agree the cast is spectacular. This is basically proof why Aaron Sorkin deserves way more work. And I definitely enjoyed this character study. I think it's one of the most well-made films of the year, absolutely, for sure. So I'm going to give Steve Jobs an 8 out of 10.
Okay, cool. As for me,
I'm worried here. I'm worried. Go ahead.
You're always worried,
let the
Sean.
man talk.
I am always worried.
Let the man talk.
But you got nothing to worry about, Sean. Steve Jobs is pretty much a success on every level. It works as a character study. It works as a drama piece. It works pretty much as a lesson in how Aaron Sorkin writes dialogue. It's it takes a lot of risks and it succeeds, and its structure is amazing, and its foundation is a very good movie with just little things here and there that make it a great movie, including great editing, great visual effects, great score, and overall a very respectful treatment of the visual medium that is film. And overall, yeah, I was totally into this movie. I cannot tell you for the life of me why it's not super big and why people aren't talking about it more often. But yeah, Steve Jobs also gets a 9 out of 10 from me.
Woo, nice.
See,
Nice.
See,
We're-
come on,
we're
Sean.
positive.
You gotta give me a little bit more credit. Which leads me to my question. So, all of you guys who have not seen Steve Jobs, which may be all of you listening to this, you all have a reason now to go see Steve Jobs. The reason being we all like it, which is totally a reason for some reason. But my question to you is, scenario: Aaron Sorkin approaches you. He's like, I want to write a screenplay based on an insignificant moment in your life. Which insignificant moment is that for you? Like, which one do you think you could get a great Aaron Sorkin script out of? Just let us know in the comments below. All right? Cool. So,
Wow, that's
people who have
very
seen Steve
creative.
Jobs.
Good job, Max.
Yeah.
we
I
didn't
bring
discuss that
the rain
beforehand.
when
That was
No,
yeah,
we did
that
not.
was all on Max.
That was unrehearsed.
well done.
Yeah. So if you just go watch the movie now, and if you really don't care about spoilers, even though we kind of all know where, because this is a biopic.
Yeah, honestly, no spoiler section here. It's not one of those movies.
But I think there are some, so I think go see the
fine,
movie.
we'll do a
That's
spoiler
really
section.
Go see the movie, go check it out, have a good time, and just give some money to this movie that deserves money. Honestly,
It does.
if we
It
had,
really does.
if this movie doesn't do well, it will kind of tell us that structure, like this one is not a way to bring money and
Well-
get people to turn away from stuff like this. And I don't want that to happen because this movie's great.
Something that's weird. Another quick audience question: if anyone has a Cinemark, tell me if you can go to Steve Jobs at it, because Steve Jobs is not playing in Helena in my hometown. So I had to see it before I left town on Friday here, because it was not playing at the Cinemark, and I don't know if it's just the Cinemark chain. So let me know. And I wonder if that's part of it. Are there some chains that aren't showing it for some reason? That might be a reason. It might not be the structure, but whatever.
Yeah.
And it might be Star Wars.
Well,
Blame it on Star Wars.
I just think a lot of this like bad box office sort of has to do with maybe an overexposure of Steve Jobs just in general.
That is what Variety reported.
It's possible.
and I would sort of see that, but at the same time,
I just think it's the most viable reason, really. I mean, we have a lot of talent here, but there's just we've had like 3 different Steve Jobs movies come out before this one on a variety of different like levels.
Yes,
of
but
how
this is
they
the second
were.
feature film, which brings me to the first thing I want to ask, actually, before we get into like the meat and potatoes. Sean, what do you like? You've seen Jobs. You watched it. You did a
Yes.
review for it.
So did I.
Long time ago in a web show far, far away.
I
Tell us,
also
what
saw
did
Jobs.
you? What do you see as the biggest difference between this and Jobs outside of like the obvious stuff?
Well, the difference is that Jobs was a very quick movie. It was a very covering vast parts of his life. It was written to be, this sounds bad, but kind of quickly put out there. And it suffered a bit from it, but it felt very skimming the surface. It had good points. It hit a lot of things that this movie does. It's not like it was blind to a lot of things. It's pretty easy to see Steve Jobs as this brilliant visionary who was terrible to people. This isn't a revolutionary concept. And so it got that. And I actually respect what Ashton Kutcher did with the role a lot. He did it well. Not amazing, but well. And so I think the biggest difference is just compare the people behind it. That's really all you need to look at in terms of who was the screenwriter? I don't know, but it wasn't
I
Aaron
don't know.
Sorkin. There's your difference.
Mhm.
And it's the difference between Ashton Kutcher and freaking Michael Fassbender. That's the difference. It's just not as deep. It didn't hone in on such big issues. It wasn't a character study. It was focused too much on making it about the history of Apple and other things. This one Sorkin took definitely just as a character study, and I think it's a better approach. So I think that's the difference right there.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I will check out Jobs sometime just to see if any of the issues in this movie are addressed in that movie as well. And I'm pretty sure this will not be the last Steve Jobs movie we get, unless the box office.
Man in the Machine, the documentary,
okay.
if that counts.
It's a documentary, okay, cool. But okay, we've been spending a lot of time like kind of building this up, so I'm going to go like segment by segment because I don't know about you, but there isn't a ton of stuff to talk about with this movie. Like,
No.
things it does right, it does very right, and then we can just move on. So the first thing I want to talk about is the structure, because I think it's the most like distinct part of it. The structure, if you don't know, Steve Jobs is a movie that takes place on 3 different events, mere minutes before an important keynote that would impact Jobs' life and the history of the computer industry. The first one takes place in 1984, right before the launch of the Mac. The second takes place in 1998 during the launch of the Next computer, which is, look it up. And then the final one is 1998 for the iMac launch. And it's all like, even though these are all like seemingly insignificant events, they all tie into the big themes of Steve Jobs and who he was. So in that regard, what do you guys think of the structure?
Well, that was kind of the concern, because this was announced a long time ago.
Yes, this is what got me super pumped.
And Aaron Sorkin said, it's going to be 3 big scenes. And I thought, wow, that's not going to work. Like, bare minimum, you're going to be sitting through a 30-minute scene. It's
okay, that's true.
That's kind of cheating. I mean, technically, that's a lie, because the characters do go to different locations in time. There are many different scenes. It's not 3 scenes. But the idea of capturing the person of Steve Jobs as he was at his most optimistic in before the launch of the Macintosh, his most defeated / vengeful before the Next computer, and the most victorious yet still not quite claiming what he really needs, which would be the relationship with his daughter, but we'll get to that later, for when the iMac. The idea of popping in on these 3 crucial moments and exploring as many aspects about his life at that time as Aaron Sorkin could was great. I love this structure. I would not recommend movies try it, though. This is very unique, where Steve Jobs' life kind of lent itself to this. So be careful, but I think in this case, it worked insanely well. Larry? You said you have issues.
Yeah. What do you think, Larry?
Okay. It's sort of hard to phrase why I don't think this structure perfectly clicks. And I think, Sean, you sort of hit on it. There's this idea within the structure that it's like 3 different scenes, right? That's kind of the idea that they're going for, like 3 different pre-press conferences. Now, if you'll allow me, I do want to kind of reference another film. Let's talk a little bit about Birdman for a second, and that film cinematography.
I was going to bring that up when Sean was like talking about how.
See, this ties in. I'm not going to talk too critically of it, but it kind of ties into what I'm saying. Birdman has a very real-time feel to it. The camera work makes it feel like this is one long action happening within this character's life. It kind of also evokes motion within the character's life, etc. The movie succeeds because it gives off this effect. This is why I don't think the Steve Jobs structure works perfectly. I think that the movie has so many cuts, and each big scene does have small scenes in it, which sort of makes me kind of wonder. I mean, I get why they structured it this way, but before all these press conferences, in the sense that, we get to learn a lot about his character, and before every press conference, we get very detailed communications with all these different relationships that are established. And that works perfectly. There's a lot of great dialogue. It's very poignant. It's a great character study. I just don't think the real-time aspect of this structure works that well, because these 3 big scenes don't feel like 3 big scenes. They feel like a 3-act structure with a bunch of scenes in them. And I feel that's
kind of a movie.
Yeah, that is kind of a movie, but I feel like the way that you place yourself in these 3 different events, there could have been a really interesting dynamic if we sort of went for the long take approach, where if it feels more like, oh my God, all of this is happening at once and Steve Jobs has to process all of it. Instead, we get all these cuts and we get these flashbacks, and it sort of messes with that. Now,
we should actually talk about the flashbacks.
Yeah, I would like to talk about those. Now, again, flashbacks were cool. I liked going back in time with like Seth Rogen and Michael Fassbender for like founding Apple. It was a good
the garage.
Yeah, it was a good way to sort of escape where we were then, because it was getting a little repetitive. And also, even with the long take, doing that could have been a cool editing thing, where like you could have like been in like his mind or something. But that's a totally other tangent. I think the structure works. I think it's a very interesting structure, and I think that it definitely gives the film an edge based off of anything else I've seen this year for sure. I just don't think it perfectly meshes together. It's a 3-act structure with a bunch of scenes in between, but I just think we could have gotten something a little bit more dynamic through it. That's my thing about the structure.
If I may chime in, I loved the structure. I think it totally worked well. I think they did a good job of both distinguishing. Man, that took me a second. Distinguishing these scenes through colorization, through cinematography, which we'll get to in a bit.
Changes.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit because that was a definitely noticeable thing. And I think it totally worked because it gave us so much. It gave us so much story without having to jump from place to place. Now, my only problem with this, and this is kind of a nitpick, is that characters will reference past like events. Like we'll reference like in the last act and the second act, they'll reference the previous one, which happened like 4 years or 10 years before. And it's like there's no way you could remember that. There's no way you could remember him saying that specific thing. Like there's suspension of disbelief for the sake of drama, and then there's just like trying to reinforce points that you've already made to the audience through characters saying them. And that's a good thing to do, but I think it was just a little bit too unbelievable here. That's my only problem with the structure, though. I think it's a great way of... Yeah, and the fact is that we get not only 3 acts, but 3 different perspectives on the core... I don't want to say character, because it's Steve Jobs, but like the core conflict of this, which is Lisa, Steve's daughter. And I think it really worked, because it was like... It was giving us a lot without giving us too much at all. It came in at the right time and it left at the right time, and I totally enjoyed it. I was like, "This is awesome." I was hoping kind of to see some kind of launch some kind of like extra scene at the end or something, where we go like to one final press conference like before the launch of the iPhone or something. But that's not. Yeah.
I actually, as an Apple nerd, I appreciated the hint towards the iPhone.
Yeah, seriously.
You think that's an actual... Not an iPhone, the iPod. You think that's an actual thing that happened? He's like...
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he would have mentioned it. Like, it was already in development. But, yeah, I bet something like that happened.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the iPhone reference where he's, it says killed it because of the stylus. When you're holding 1, you're not using the other 5. Like, that was a fun little...
And then also at the end when he's like, I want to get rid of that Walkman, When he mentions like his daughter's Walkman, it's like, I want to put all your music in your pocket.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing. Yeah,
I was referring to that wasn't the subtle nod.
I never noticed the style, like the finger thing. I didn't even think about that.
That was the nod to the iPhone, because I mean, Steve Jobs has been adamant. He was adamant that he hated a stylus. Cough, cough, Apple Pencil. Cough.
Yeah,
cough.
honestly,
come on,
is that a thing? Is that a thing now?
That is a thing. That is a thing.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately,
it actually looks pretty cool, but. Whatever. Anyway, I digress.
You think when Woz brought out the watch, did anybody else think Apple Watch? Anything?
No, I didn't.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, because I know he didn't have any hand in that, but I don't know. I guess that's just like me being the Apple guy and just being like, hey, I recognize that. So okay, so 2 of us think the structure's awesome. 1 of us thinks it works. That's fine.
I think. I just want to say, I don't want to paint this as if I don't think the structure is like interesting and it isn't good. I just don't think it didn't perfectly click for me, but it's a good structure, and I think Aaron Sorkin did a great job, presenting conflicts within that structure. Just want to be sure that
Okay, that's fine. But of course, not like a story is told through events, but it's really told through character. And I really want to touch on the characters, and not just the performances, but also like the characters written. So. Should we start with Steve, or should we end with Steve?
That's pretty big. I think we should build up.
Okay, yeah. So, can I actually address like the person I think who like kind of like stole the show in a sense?
Sure.
It was not one of the starring roles. It was the man who plays Andy. Last name, do not remember. Hertzfeld. I think that guy was amazing. I was so impressed. Like he's one of the Apple team members, and he's in each of the 3 acts, and he really kind of brings this subtle cowardice and this subtle like social awkwardness that's like very on point. Like it's a heavily implied that Steve Jobs was a man that was feared at Apple, like somebody who was not particularly nice to people and whatnot. Like somebody mentions that there was once a trophy that was given out to the person who stood up to Steve Jobs every year, and I think he got that point across extremely well as one of the members of the Mac team, and I thought he stole every single scene he was in, and I'm really excited to see where that guy, Michael, I don't remember what his last, I don't even think it's Michael, but I want to see that guy in more movies. I was very impressed. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, can I also point out that I like the fact that character was there? I like that it sort of symbolizes like where Steve Jobs can't, like the unknown to Steve Jobs. like essentially like, in the beginning he's dealing with that talking thing with the hello, and Steve Jobs isn't understanding what he's saying about like why it doesn't work, and then at the third act he talks about the daughter and how like he doesn't know anything that he's been doing with his daughter. It's sort of this weird unknown, this weird disconnect, which I think really helped, especially when you're dealing with all these major characters. It's nice to have a minor character that also symbolizes something.
Yeah. Should we talk about Lisa, like the 3 Lisas in this movie?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I was impressed, honestly.
They're good. They're very good actors.
I think she was a bit too smarmy at 5 years old, but I still enjoyed it. I think
Is
she's
that first or second?
First.
Okay. First, I don't too much. It didn't leave too much of an impression, but second Lisa was surprisingly good. Like, it's so hard to get child actors that young that good, and so I'm very impressed.
Very true. And they all looked very similar. Like, I was very
they did a good
surprised
job with that too, which is also very hard. And I also would like to say, I think third Lisa, oldest Lisa, I think she might get a career because she was really good, and this is kind of that perfect role. It's really important emotionally, but small screen time wise, so you kind of leave that impression without overstaying your welcome. This could be a good launch. So I hope to see more.
By the way, do you recognize third Lisa from Kill Bill?
Oh,
no.
Was she?
What?
She's the daughter. She's the daughter in Kill Bill.
No
That's
way.
awesome.
Yeah.
No, what?
So,
that's awesome.
Wait. Crossover confirmed?
No. Steve and the Bride.
If Tarantino and Alan Sorkin wrote a movie together, it would be literally nothing but dialogue, and it'd be like 10 hours and the world would end. Never let that happen.
Never.
Yeah, it would probably be dialogue. It was mostly about nothing.
It'd be dialogue the movie.
But and while we're at it, just the dialogue was all very good. I just want to point out it was snappy and quick, but it wasn't like too much so like The Social Network.
I don't think that's just. I just want to mention the dialogue's a huge part. Let's keep with characters, and then we'll get to dialogue.
Okay, fine. But so let's see. I think all 3 Lisas were very good. I was very surprised. I didn't know what the movie was necessarily about. I didn't know what that was going to be. Like the big part, but I think it was well executed.
Yeah.
So should we get to the main players? Is there any other thing about the supporting cast?
No, that's pretty good.
No, yeah.
And Chris Ann was also good. I think that was her name, Chris Ann.
Oh yeah,
the ex-wife or the.
So Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels, man.
Jeff Daniels.
He's like one of those underappreciated yet still appreciated, luckily, actors. Like, people don't talk about him enough, but he does get work. He's in that weird middle ground. So I liked it. He did really great here.
He knows how to work with Aaron Sorkin's dialogue. He's done it before, and he's really good at it.
Can I just say, every time, my favorite scenes in the film were the ones where Michael Fassbender and Jeff Daniels were going at it with the flashbacks.
For me, the best part of the movie was that
argument.
Yeah, that kind
the
of
relationship
back and forth, specifically in the second act.
Yes,
in that long hallway,
good.
And that was one of my favorite scenes reading it. And I knew it was going to be better because in the script it was kind of weird to cut back and forth so much. But when it was edited, it was great. The cutting back and forth to him being voted out, and it was brilliant.
Yeah,
and the classical music, and it was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that Jeff Daniels is not going to be the main player who's really remembered, like, through all of these main players. But holy cow, he
really brought it.
Yeah, honestly, this was a great supporting performance. Yeah, and if he got nominated, I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
I want to watch Dumb and Dumber, and I want to watch this right afterwards and just see what
he has quite the varied career.
Think about it. He was just in The Martian, and he was great in that. So
that's right. Yeah,
good year for Jeff Daniels.
Good year
for Jeff Daniels.
So Jeff Daniels was great.
Seth Rogen?
Seth Rogen proved that he can do dramatic roles. He totally did.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that he didn't drop the Seth Rogen feel.
Oh, he's very Seth Rogen.
He's an animated person. He's big, he's expressive, and that's why I love for the character. I was worried that he would have been toned down so much he wouldn't be allowed to be expressive and stuff. He would be, because it would appear too goofy. No, they gave him expression, and he felt like a bigger performance than others, but that was fine. I think it really fit. So I think he did a great job. He was a good cast. I think it was
I'm very excited to see where he goes as a dramatic actor.
Yeah, I hope he gets more roles.
Okay, now see, here's the thing. I don't think it ever. I was constantly seeing Seth Rogen. That's just.
He's like one of the most active filmmakers in Hollywood. Seriously.
I know, but also I don't think they did a lot to really mess with his look.
No,
at all.
they didn't do that with either of them. Like I saw the first picture. I was like, that just looks like Seth Rogen and Michael Fassbender. Like, there's nothing.
I mean, Michael Fassbender a little bit with the hair. Kate Winslet got a total hair thing, which I think really helped. But as far as
get to it in a sec.
As far as Seth Rogen goes, I never didn't see Seth Rogen, but I think that's sort of okay. I think that there was this great idea that Steve Wozniak sort of was the guy to drop all the news onto Steve Jobs, and in a sense he was very animated in the way he would do that. When he got angry, it was Seth Rogen getting angry, but it worked for the character, sort of like what Sean said. So bravo.
He was the moral center, and he played that part well.
And
he seems like a really
Ringo,
cool
I'm
guy.
actually John. John wrote Ticket to Ride. I wrote the Apple II. This is a very quotable movie.
Yeah, Seth Rogen seems like a very sweet kind of guy. So I feel this sort of played very well.
Yeah, when you see him pushed, it's like, dude, Steve, back off, bro.
Yeah.
What's your deal? Like, it does factor in. Yeah. So Seth Rogen was great. I want to see him in more dramatic roles. Yeah, I do agree with you. It did feel like Seth Rogen was there, and I don't think we've gotten to the point where he can be a different person. But I think he was put in the right role, and I think he still brought it. This is like Seth Rogen, like proving, hey, I can be dramatic. I don't have to always do stoner comedies.
Correct.
Yeah. So Kate Winslet,
awesome.
If it
wasn't that guy who played Andy who stole the show, it was totally her for me. Totally.
What's up with the accent? Eastern European.
It did switch a little bit.
Didn't you hear?
I didn't get it. I don't know what was up with that.
Because she's from Poland.
Well, did they say Poland?
Yes, yeah. It was a little bit hard to tell, but like Lisa thought that she was from the North Pole. Like,
Poland,
yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that doesn't take away from her performance. I think she's a great performance here.
No, I think the accent was very subtle. Like you could only hear it once or twice, and it was cool. It was good.
I think it's kind of hard to like not see an actor in movies. You know, like we were just talking. I saw Seth Rogen, and for the most part, I didn't see Fassbender. But we'll get to him. But with Kate Winslet, I forgot it was her. I think she was great.
Yep.
And
I think the makeup job helps
served the perfect like voice of reason. Like you had to have a character like this to stand up to Steve. Like, and I'm not even talking in terms of like life and stuff, but in terms of your story, drama won't exist. You needed a character like this. Otherwise, your lead is just going to bulldoze over everyone. And so very essential character in terms of the story. And she pulled it off perfectly. So yeah. A round of applause for sure.
Nice. Yeah, very good performance.
I was very impressed. Like it again reminded me that Kate Winslet is not just the woman from Titanic. Like she's so much more than that, and she's really great. Like she she has this like this bravery to her, like where she's not afraid to stand up to Steve Jobs and like you know, and as we'll get to in a second, you know, Michael Fassbender's performance, she very much like they don't have good chemistry, but I think that's the point. Like at one point, Steve Jobs asked, "Hey, why haven't we ever slept together?" And she's like, "Because we don't love each other." And that kind of tells you a lot about how they interact and stuff, how they are like friends, and their chemistry has never been great, but that's okay. Like they're not supposed to, they're supposed to be like workers and stuff, like coworkers. So I was very impressed. Yeah, it was. I mean, the performances are all around very solid. But this is the kind of movie where you kind of expect that to happen. But of course, we got to talk Steve. We got to talk about Fassbender, the man. Yeah.
What do you say?
He's so talented.
I was very impressed.
Fassbender kills it.
I think he does a very good job, though I think it's maybe a little bit more about his character than the performance for me, personally. Like, I love the way Steve Jobs performed. I don't know if this is accurate. Like, I don't really care. Like, this
Woz says it was.
Person.
I don't know said it was amazingly accurate. How he acted and stuff.
Okay, well, fine, but like this Steve Jobs is like thoroughly layered and just a fascinating specimen to observe. That by which I mean it's not really a protagonist you relate to. This is something you observe from afar. Like you see them, you're like, oh, so that's what it's like to be at the top. Like you relate more to Wozniak and more to Hoffman and more to like Andy and whatnot. Like you don't really, you see Steve Jobs and he's built up not to be relatable, but to be this different person. That's where Sorkin's fantastic characterization comes into play. I think I really enjoyed the character study, and Michael Fassbender's performance was very good. I was more interested in like how the character was written personally.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that. I mean, I think Fassbender just really becomes this character. The accent is seamless, in my opinion, and I think there is sort of this calmer nuance in how he does the voice that you wouldn't think perfectly works with this kind of snappy dialogue. but it's because of just Fassbender's emotion he puts into the lines and the way that he just handles the mannerisms of the character. I think just perfectly works here. And I think the interesting thing about this is that you would think that Steve Jobs is the surrogate because like he's the main character and all the events around him. But really, everyone else is the surrogate because, as you said, this character is not relatable. So, and Michael Fassbender does a brilliant job at creating this character who is like sort of in a whole other world. Like it has a whole other way of viewing people. So, like this film is begging for analyzation and like thematic dissection. So I can't wait till I get to see it like another 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I'm really excited to. What's up?
Well, I would like to say something with the promise that it will be immediately moved on and not dwelled on for its implications or questioning. May I have such a promise?
Okay.
Man crush.
I really related with this character.
Oh, me too.
Move on.
This is the sad part. I was actually going to mention this. I sort of relate to this character. Like, I think that Steve Jobs is one of the greatest presentation artists who ever lived. A man who really, really cared about how people saw it the first time. Like how, like in the beginning of the movie, we see that he's really stressing out over this presentation of the Mac. Like, you know, go get me a shirt that has like the pocket in it so I can bring out the disc. You have to make sure that the Mac can say hello. Like that's the kind of stuff that I saw myself in that. Granted, that was the only time I did, but I totally see where you're coming from, Sean. Yes, I don't see myself as menacing as Steve Jobs is sometimes, but I totally see like the same like perfectionist complex, like, you know, very like critical of himself and whatnot that Steve Jobs portrayed in this. That makes sense?
A little bit. There was a bit more to it, but it's hard to articulate. So we can move on. But I actually found this to be,
we got
honestly, that's why I prefer this over Social Network, to be honest.
Really,
Because
you
Jesse
just brought this up.
Played a really hard to relate to Mark Zuckerberg, and I think that was a strength, and I think that was very much called for in for the movie and the story. But I had a hard time relating to that character, not as much here. I think Fassbender Steve Jobs was more. I could approach it more. That's just a bit more, and that's kind of the tiebreaker because they feel very similar.
They do, but I would personally prefer the Social Network personally. That's just because like it's one of my favorite movies, and I mean it's maybe this will be like the Social Network in which it will get better as the years go on. But so Social Network and Steve Jobs, what do they have in common? Written by Aaron Sorkin. And Sorkin's one of my favorite writers, and I just want to talk about the dialogue, which is like kind of the best in the business at this point, honestly.
Well, only if you like it. Because
you can say the same about Tarantino.
Oh, well, yeah, I do say the same thing about Tarantino. When you get this good at your one specific style, you're going to alienate people. I'm not one of those people. I love this writing. It was very fast. I think sometimes it came across a little like explaining to the audience what the emotional stakes are or the moral, but sometimes that was called for. Like I loved at the end when he just says, "I'm poorly made." That's a great line. Even though it is right on the nose, I think it was appropriate. This is the kind of writing I think I'd like to say more of. Yes, it's a little gimmicky in how it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's not how real people talk. No one talks like Sorkin characters. I think that's fine.
But it's okay because it's movies. That's my point. I know. It's movies.
Oh, I know. I'm fine with it. I'm just saying, like, you can say that. It does not feel natural and organic. It just feels poignant and clever and snappy, and you never get bored. It's just one great line after the other, one great quote, a quip, a joke, and then boom, emotional line, just right after the other. It's really, really expertly paced, and yeah, it's brilliant. Mm-hmm. It's dizzying, I would say.
I agree.
See, I wanted to say, like, I think that he's one of the best writers because he understands that dialogue is pretty much designed to be in service to other dialogue and character as opposed to standing on its own 2 feet. I think a lot of writers have a weird thing of, like, they want to be quotable, so they make lines that, like, will very much, like, explain everything in the situation, like, right then and there. Whereas Sorkin makes quotable movies through character interaction stuff. I gave you 3 weeks. God created the universe in a third that time. Well, you better let us know how you did that. Like, that kind of stuff. I remember I was in the theater, the two people behind me, we were all like, oh, nice. It was awesome. Like this is a very quotable movie, and I think it comes from a lot of highlights. Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Tell me that Steve Jobs is a bad movie.
Steve Jobs is a bad movie?
Forget you, man. Forget you, and I will tell you that every single time.
It's Land
Yeah.
That Worked Clean. That wouldn't have worked. It's not a bad movie. It's a great movie.
Whatever. Okay, fine. It was worth a shot. But my point is, it's a very quotable movie that I think is totally some of his best work. Again, I prefer The Social Network, but like this is a guy who gets dialogue more so than any other screenwriter to me.
Hey, Max, you know what the difference now is?
What?
You're an asshole. That's the difference between them. That's personally one of my favorite lines from the movie. There's a brilliant scene with Seth Rogen and Michael Fassbender, by the way. Great stuff.
You think John became John by being like tricked by George Harrison? No, John was John because he was John. It's like great. It's like it doesn't mean anything, but it means so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
my favorite line is, "Musicians play the instruments, I play the orchestra." It's great. It was used in the trailer. It's just a great line.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we hit on like? Oh, are we done with this writing?
Yeah, I want to move on to the editing actually.
Yeah, just like the editing and like the moments in between.
Yes, I think the editing in this movie was excellent.
Yeah,
like,
very interesting.
Yes.
Sort of like the style, how it changes after every.
I would say this: amazing
conference.
use of cutting. It was not used a lot. It was used just the right amount of like cutting back and forth in time to like give us different reactions to what's being said. Audio and video were cut separately. That's a huge thing that my editing professor is hammering in this semester and the class that I'm taking is think of audio and video separately. This movie did that. Like it will just cut to Steve reacting to something being said. Totally different time frame. Like he's not reacting to what's being said, but it emotionally gets across what the character's thinking. Stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah.
However, those transitions between the eras, I guess the three chunks, sometimes felt a little flashy.
Really? I really like them, especially the last one where it turns into the eye. I think that's really cool. Like it because you gotta cover these moments like you have to cover 10 years of important moments in like a minute.
That's fine, but the flashy titles like 1990 whatever, it's like
bold
colors.
I disagree.
That did not fit the movie.
If it were any other movie, it would just be like, it would be like San Francisco, 1984. At the bottom of the screen, no, this was like big. It was like, this is 1984. This is where we're going to go. Right here, right now, for the next 30, 45 minutes.
Excited of a movie. I mean...
It's okay, I will say that, but I also think it was like totally worth it anyway. And
I just thought they were pretty to look at. I just think they're very colorful and they're very well edited. Do they work with the film? Maybe not as well as they could have, but I just think that they're well edited sequences.
Yeah, I will say that like the title sequence was very fascinating. I want to watch that again.
Yeah, that was not a good start for me.
I thought it was a really cool start. I don't know what it means, but I totally thought it was cool.
Well, like I get what they were trying to do, but like I don't know, like text being that small, it's
liked it.
I don't know. It didn't work for me personally, but that's just my OCD about.
I mean,
love
it's very
for
divisive. It's
titles.
like it's not really like it's pretty untraditional, and I appreciate that.
Well,
that's why.
Okay, I say this because like. I don't know why, but like opening and closing titles and like opening credits and closing credits for me are like really important. Like I think that's like
me too, absolutely.
Like when I make a film, like one of the first things I think about whenever I'm making a video or something is how it starts and how it ends, because I think that like that's very important. So I don't know. This kind of it gave off a good impression of the tone of the film. I just don't know if like the whole formatting thing with the text worked so well. It's a very interesting risk that they took. Like this entire movie is really risky.
Yeah, it's very risky on a visual level, which we'll get to in a second. But Larry, just to relate to you in a sense, usually whenever I listen to a song, I either think of two things: whether or not this would work in a trailer, and whether or not this would work as the opening or closing sequence of a movie. Like pretty much every single song, single song.
Yep.
So I totally agree. I don't know what that video was though. I know it was talking about the computer, but like, was it supposed to be significant to Steve Jobs in any way, or?
I think
no,
it was just
him.
Well,
I was thinking that was him, but I don't think it was.
No, it wasn't. I think it was just a video about an informational video about personal computing, which sort of again, see, like it wasn't a great opening, in my opinion. Though we got right into the scene, so it was okay after that.
Yeah, and I really liked how like it. Let's see. Well, the editing overall, I thought was very impressive. Like, just was very like it. Sometimes it was visible, most of the time it was invisible, and I really think that its cuts to like in between stuff was really awesome. And I mean, you needed to have a good editing job, otherwise this would be a very boring movie to watch. And it wasn't. It totally wasn't. Mm-hmm. Thanks to everything else, but especially I would say the editing takes the cake on that one. I feel like every time I say something, it just kind of stops.
Sorry. What would be the next subject? Cinematography?
The next thing I want to talk about cinematography and colorization because that's actually a big part of this movie and how it distinguishes its 3 acts.
Yes. I think it was beautifully shot, but every once in a while, there's a shot that just felt a little too in your face or odd or vibrant. Like there was some shots just felt a little much, and it felt like kind of Slumdog Millionaire-esque. It didn't fit quite as well. Like I'm trying to think of examples, but I can't. But it was very rare. Just like every once in a while, it just kind of like, I don't know, popped too much. It felt like it should be more subdued. And my favorite shot is when it's just Steve on the very far left of I think he's in like an elevator, just half his face, and then the rest of the screen just empty. It's just that bluish gray glass. It was beautiful.
Larry, what did you think about the like the colorization? Because I mean, you guys noticed it, right? The abundant grain in the first one, which I thought was a little bit distracting, partially. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and at first I didn't get why. I was kind of distracted by it. Like, did they shoot the movie weirdly? Like, there was a lot of grain, and it was I didn't really notice too much about colorization, although there were clearly some shots that were evoking, some serious, thematic stuff within that colorization. I think it was well shot. I think there was a lot of variety in location, which is good. And especially certain scenes just are put in very interesting locations, like the scene where I conduct, you play an instrument, I play the orchestra, and it's set in that room. I think it's an interesting dynamic. I also like the long hallway in Act 2 with Jeff Daniels and Steve Jobs, which was great.
Location.
But I didn't really notice too much about colorization, really.
Like I thought the first one was very red, the second one was very yellow, and the third one was very like white. Those are the colors I saw personally.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to it, but I will the second time.
I was starting to think, wait, red, and then there was sort of like a lot of white in the second scene, and then a lot of blue. I was thinking, is this some kind of like statement on like American like industry and like how things work in the American like because it was red, white, and blue? But I think it's like an English teacher trying to find meaning.
I think if you saw red and then yellow and then green, then it would have made a lot more sense because that sort of is like the stop, slow down, go.
Oh, that's another interesting way to look at it. Yeah, but
I think you didn't see green though. So
yeah. Okay, just to comment on this visual look, this is a movie that will show a character conflicted, rapidly cut to the person they're thinking about, and then cut back, and then totally get away with it, and nobody thinks. Yeah.
Oh, that sequence is good. Yeah, that sequence is good.
It's like it's really obvious on the nose, but it totally works. I don't know how, but it totally works.
Well, that's because that technique works.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's a bit cheesy. Yeah.
I think it's like super.
Well, that's because. Well, I think it mainly works here because we know Steve Jobs thinks about a lot of things, and I think the human mind sort of works like that a lot too. We get these brief moments where we, see this one image. So I think Steve Jobs was really trying to focus on something, and it just like really quickly. But then, he was thinking about so many other things. He was trying to stay focused. The combination of all those elements make it work. Also, the sound design during that scene as well made it work very well.
Okay, so that's everything we have to do on like look and stuff, right? Does anybody have any other like closing comments?
Oh, speaking of closing, the music selection for the very end felt a little too like indie rock, happy, yay. I don't think it really
felt like
I wanted to talk about the score. Actually, I think it was very good.
Did it kind of remind you of the Kutcher Jobs movie? That ending music?
I can't remember how that one ended.
Well, it ended with like his quote, like "Here's to the crazy ones."
Yeah.
I don't know. It sort of reminded. It felt a little off, but I don't know. There was all these bright lights, and there was like the audience cheering, so there was clearly this tone that they were trying to go for. So
yeah. I just want to say the score was really awesome. Like it kind of felt like a perspective of the person who only knows Steve Jobs as the guy who founded Apple, because it feels very mystical. It's like, this is Steve like the score is kind of like saying, this is Steve Jobs. This is the man that has been like kind of mythologized as the man who one of the architects of the future. Like, this is him. And it's like, he's being really mean and stuff. And it's like, it's very powerful. It really works. It also kind of reminds me of Interstellar soundtrack in a sense. I don't know about you guys. Can he use the same instruments?
Do you know who did the score?
No, I don't, but I have not seen his name before. I hope to see his name more often. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
It's not Hans Zimmer, which would be very interesting for this movie. But let's not do that. But anything else, Sean? Do you have any closing comments? Anything?
Well, I would just say that it's also, people were kind of worried, but you shouldn't be worried about it being like a unfair look. It's a pretty
it's very honest.
Look.
It is not afraid.
It's not that positive So
Yeah.
that's probably good. What people would want to see more so than just oh, what an inspiring figure. It's more complicated than that. But it's also not just, oh, what terrible monster. It's very fair. It's a character study of a very flawed person, but sympathetic and at his sympathetic times, and again for me relatable when the script wanted me to be related to him, and sometimes when I wasn't supposed to, but that's for my psychologist to deal with. So yeah, I would just say that it's fair. So if you're worried of it being biased either way, don't. I think it's fair.
It kind of shows the downsides of thinking different, as it were.
Oh yeah,
differently, Dad, differently. I was like, oh my god, I never noticed that. I actually had not noticed that.
Yeah,
different. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it lionized Steve Jobs. I don't think maybe it went a little bit too negative at parts, but I think it was also like this is what needed to happen because this is the man. The people who the crazy ones. They're sometimes a little bit, unpredictable, and sometimes they do weird things, and sometimes they say weird things to Time Magazine, and it just haunts you for the rest of the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's everything we have to say on Steve Jobs. I would personally say, I don't know about you guys.
Just cut off my closing comments.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Larry. I'm so sorry.
No, whatever.
Okay, so I honestly think that this movie is. What you gave me?
Okay,
you gave me.
It was a joke. I am really hoping I can find chances to see this movie again and again because I think this movie is just begging for people to rewatch it and sort of think about it in different ways. Like in my film classes right now, we're really doing a lot of segmentation and relating narrative to form, and I think that this film it's begging for people to just like rewatch it and just like analyze the heck out of it because it offers a lot.
Movie and stuff. Please make this movie successful. I swear to you, this movie does not deserve to be a box office bomb. Not at all.
My friend put it best when it's just his timing was its worst enemy. I think just people are sort of done with the whole Steve Jobs idea. We've already seen so many different books. We saw the biographies, we saw movies, we saw all this stuff about him. But I think this film is definitely the best representation of him, at least in movie form, for sure.
Yeah, I would personally say, like, I don't know about you guys, but I think this is 4 years after his death, and we have found the definitive Steve Jobs movie. That's my take on it.
Yep,
sure.
That's definitely I agree with that.
Other people can try, but there's nothing as I don't think there'll be anything quite as honest about Steve Jobs as this one is, especially from a man who I think, from what I understand, a lot of people who respected the guy a lot. This was not, they were like, let's just take a dump all over Steve Jobs and his reputation. These people were not, Sorkin and the rest, they were they want to tell an honest story. And though a lot of this stuff was fictionalized, I'm not saying this is all true. Probably a lot of this was dramatized. I think it is a very honest perspective on the matter. So go watch Steve Jobs is really what we're trying to say here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So that would be the end. However, there is something we want to talk about real quick. Just touch on. We're almost out of here. So you may have noticed that.
Okay. Gotta stop you. I was hopeful. Okay, at the beginning of the podcast, I had a thought, and I was hoping you would do it without me having to come in and stop you. But Max, you will never forgive yourself because I won't forgive you. What you meant to say was, now normally that's when we'd end, but there is one more thing.
Oh man, I had.
There we go.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I try that again? Okay. CEO, co-founder, Rule Thirds. Okay. There is one more thing, but it's not a new phone. I'm sorry. It is instead.
Give our viewers
wow, this joke is so funny, guys.
Listen.
It's just hilarious.
Okay.
Anyway, just go ahead, Max.
Basically, if you may have noticed that Rule Thirds has been a bit weird lately with its scheduling and timing and stuff. I will say from personal experience that it's been kind of a weird. It's been a weird season for us, the three of us, and as a result, and I've been actually asked to go work on other things, including a new web show that I will be talking about soon, I guess, next week, I don't know, and as a result, I will not be on the podcast as often as I'd like to be. You'll see Sean and Larry doing their thing, and also, we will have maybe, not as, many uploads. It won't be maybe a weekly thing. It'll be more casual. I think that's the main thing. It'll be a little bit more
of the basic word we want to give. We want to leave people with. It's not going away. It's just I don't know, it might not be once a week, it might be a few days late. So, Max will probably not be here all the time. Sometimes I won't be, sometimes Larry, we're just going to kind of, I don't know, let it relax a bit because Larry just started college. Max is doing other things. I have exciting things too happening.
Sure.
So we're deciding to just kind of tone it down. And part of that, I'll say it because it was my baby. We're going to end the website itself, like a physical website. It's just not really worth the money and time to update because no one goes to it. So we're still on iTunes and YouTube, but the site itself has one more month. We're going to bring down all the stuff we want, like written reviews, Roots Brevity, scales, about us page, whatever stuff we want to bring down, we will, but then it will vanish into the abyss. That sounds depressing, and that's okay. So there's that announcement.
So just keep that in mind. It's not that we have stopped caring, it's that there are other things to do. There are other... honestly, next week I will talk about this web show a tiny bit. Like, I will be on the podcast next week and I'll talk about this web show I keep mentioning a lot because it's been a huge part of my life for the past month, and I want everybody on here to maybe check it out and see if they like it. But that'll be for another day. So until next time, guys, my name is Max.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Larry.
Reminding you to always, always, always think different. Here's later.